Hey everybody, welcome back to the Midwestern Reloader channel. Walker here with another loading video. So, unfortunately, last weekend I recorded a video, spent probably I think like an hour and a half recording, another hour and a half or so making edits to the video, I had something go wrong and I lost all the footage. So, all you guys really missed out on was I wanted to do a video on reloading 223 from start to finish for beginners. You know, showing step-by-step processes for everything. And this is all I loaded with some 55 grain full metal jackets. And I stuck with the BLC2 and the CFE 223. Like I said, I'm kind of excluding Varget for right now, just because I use that in my 308. So, with 308 being mentioned, I'm going to be doing a video soon for that. I broke down and bought some of these 168 grain hollow point boat tails by Sierra. I've been wanting to try them for a while. My local Walmart had them, and still ended up having to spend $47 on them, but we'll have to see how they do. But for today's video, Scott found these at our local Walmart and figured, why not make a video out of them? These are some 50 grain Speer TnT varmint bullets. And up until now, the lightest thing we've tried is 52, which gave some okay results. I might go back and visit some of those loads a little bit more, try and tweak them. But for right now, I'm going to stay in that probably 55 and up range. But these are cheap enough, like 17 bucks for 100 of them. So we figured, why not make a video out of it? Also, I finally have an appropriate 223 load block. Finally got my 3D printer, so thank you, Sawyer, if you're watching this. Been running that thing basically non-stop since I got filament. But took the time, printed this little load block. I currently have another one printing that actually was made by the same person, because these will actually all stack together. So if I printed a 308 one, it'll stack on bottom. But that one is literally just a component tray. So I can put like my, I think it says bullets on the side of it, so I can dump all my bullets in there, and then when I want to store them, they'll just stack right on top of each other. Also, another thing you'll notice in this video, I don't know if you can see this red case peeking over here. These are not Hornady dies. These are, in fact, Lee dies. I mentioned this in the last video, but like I said, lost the footage. Scott reached out to Lee about trying to get a promo code for you guys to save money on their products. And instead of giving you guys a promo code, they decided to give us 60% off for us to use toward the channel. So I got a set of 223 dies, Scott got a spare set, and then Scott also got the Challenger 3 press, which he just did a review on. And I won't disclose the amount of money we spent, but these are the micrometer dies. These aren't quite like the standard pace setter dies. So in here, you get the, have it in the press because I have it set up already, the shell holder, which comes with the dies, like I said. And then they give you a little blister pack of some resizing lube. Probably won't use it, might, don't know. You get a 1.6 cc lead dipper, and then this is just the plain standard resizing die, same as all the other sets. Just the only difference is the newer ones have the cross bolt in them versus just the ring. Now, like I said, I do have these already set up, so I won't bother to show you guys that just because I was messing with them a little bit yesterday. And then the piece de resistance, micrometer die. And let me tell you, this makes things so much easier. And the setup on them, really simple. And then also, because these are like a higher end die set, in this, not only does it tell you how to set it up, and then it'll also give you other parts and stuff, your max trim length, blah, blah, blah. But not only does it tell you how to set everything up, it gives you load data. So this is, I'd say, pretty generic load data. I mean, it's nothing fancy. I'd say it's kind of similar to like the Lyman manual. I mean, so we're using the 50 grain bullet. So here's, 50 grain jacketed bullet, and then there's all your data. Let's say you're using a 55 grain. Again, 55 grain jacketed bullet. Gives you a couple different powders to try. Tells you roughly the volume you'll get using the lead dipper and what lead dipper to use. I thought that was pretty cool. Usually to get the load data you need to buy the higher end dies, so. But then yeah, here's like how to set up the micrometer die. Super simple, just screw it in until it touches the shell holder, give it an 1/8 inch turn more, tighten lock ring and screw, adjust micrometer to 100 thou position. And it'll put you at about 2.38-ish inches, somewhere in there from starting. I think right now I currently have it so it'll seat to 2.25. But this thing makes seating bullets so much easier, so much nicer. So I figured I'd just show you guys those. But also, as far as today goes, we've been using CCI number 400 small rifle primers. Scott decided, because he's seen them for sale for cheap, to get some of these number 41 primers for, by Winchester. Now, the only difference between like these and these is these are closer to like the 450 primer, because they're kind of closer to like a Magnum primer, but the cups of the primer themselves on these are a little bit harder to prevent slam fires in like your AR style rifles. So, but the reason I bring up using these is because being that we're using Speer Bullets, I can use my Speer number 14 manual. And when you go to 223 and you come down here, now what's nice about the Speer manual is it'll tell you, what case and everything, and what their barrel length was, what the rifle they tested was. But here it'll say that they use CCI number 400 and number 450 primers. But then you come down here, and it says CCI number 41 primers may be substituted for CCI 450 primers. And you will see that a lot of times you're using a 450 primer for spherical powders. So you go in the manual, you open it up to your data, and you'll notice down here at the bottom, a C will indicate a compressed load, and an asterisk indicates a Magnum primer used with this powder. So you come back over here. So here's our 50 grain TnT hollow point. And again, not going to use Varget. CFE 223 is not in here. I have data for it. I used Hodgdon's website. But you'll notice down here at BLC2, which is one of the powders we're using, there's a little asterisk indicating they're using a Magnum primer. So, just for the hell of it, we're going to use the number 41 primers. And we'll see how these loads do. And maybe just for the hell of it, we'll do like a primer shootout, and we'll load, once we find a load that works, with with everything, getting a good accurate load, we'll load some up with this just to see if there is a difference. I doubt there will be, but you never know. So here's our data. Now, I wrote down Varget just to show that as you get higher, you're going to get a compressed load. Now, the BLC data got that right out of here. Start at 25.5. They go to 27.5. Now for the CFE data, they don't have it in here. I went to Hodgdon's website. Now, I will use a word of caution. They start out at a charge of 27 and a max charge of like 28.5. So I was going to start at 25, work my way up, but after seeing the BLC data, I know they're similar powders. They're not interchangeable by any means, but I'm just going to use the same data for it. So got that. But yeah, so we're going to try these Speer Bullets today, and we will see how these work out. Now, you will notice I already have 6 pieces of brass in here. It's just because, and I'll show you guys a little later when I start resizing brass. The way I have my trimmer mounted on my bench, when I had the crank handle on there, I sometimes crack my knuckles on the bench. So when I found the part diagram, just so I could find the size of the screw, and all it is a 1032 bolt. So I went and got a standard 1032 bolt, it's got the cap head on it, and just a couple of nuts to jam nut it. So now I can actually chuck this up in my drill and trim that way. Now, do know they make an adapter for it for your drill, but I really didn't want to spend the money on it when I could just get a bolt from work. That's what I did. So I was trying that out last night. It works fantastic. Speeds up the process a lot. So, bring you guys back over here. I'm going to resize some brass. Won't bother to show that to you guys. I mean, by now, you should be able to figure out how to resize your brass. Now, I still do have a couple, bags of brass of that stuff Scott gave me. I'm kind of holding off using that. I got this range brass here that I've been slowly picking through. I've had this stuff for years. I think I picked this stuff up like 10 years ago off the range before I was even into reloading and before I even owned a 223. Why I picked it up, I don't remember. But hey, apparently past me knew I would end up with a 223 eventually. So 50 grain Speer Bullets. Like always, we're going to use the electronic scale to make things faster. Lee dies. Now, eventually I got to get over to Scott's so I can try that press that he got. I haven't had a chance to try it yet. But I gave him the option to do the review on it because he's been loading longer than I have, so I've been using this rock chucker for the last 5 years or so, and it's never failed me. But I really do want to get a second press just so I can have one set up for resizing, depriming, one set up for seating bullets. Now Lee does offer a nice small little like C-style press that I've had my eye on quite a few times, and it would be perfect for seating bullets, but I might just end up getting one of them Challenger presses because it seems really nice. Now what's nice about basically all the Lee presses, it doesn't really matter which one you get now. All of them have that breech lock system, which is kind of like Hornady's lock and load system. It's just a quick change die system. But so yeah, I will resize these, but I will show you guys the drill on the trimmer and just show you how quick that goes. I still have this set up from the previous video that I had issues with, so. But yeah, I will resize these and then show you guys the trimming with the drill. Alrighty guys, so here we are at the trimmer. Like I said, all you do is, and that's like a 1-inch screw, I think, or 1-inch 1032 bolt. I have 3 just standard nuts on there, and I just chuck the drill up to them nuts. But all you gotta do, like normal, you put your case in there, and in no time it is trimmed. Like I said, I thought about getting the little adapter. I think they're like 12 bucks. Like I said, I get a bolt for free, so just makes things go by that much quicker. And in this way, I don't crack my hands on the bench. So I've already done 6 in like a third of the time. It goes by quick. Now, unfortunately, I still gotta deburr and chamfer by hand, but and just like that, sometimes you do hit one that it doesn't touch. And there, I just trimmed, we'll say 10 just because it didn't really touch the 2. Oops, sorry. Trimmed 10 pieces of brass in literally a quarter of the time it would have taken me to do it by hand. So now for the real boring part. I'll have to chamfer and deburr all of these, and I'll prime them, and then I'll get back to you guys once I start measuring powder charges. Alrighty guys, so I got all of these chamfered, deburred, primed. Now it's time to start throwing powder. I am going to use the included little lead dipper that came with the dies. And we're going to keep doing the same thing we've been doing. Start at the minimum charge, going up in half grain increments, 3 different charges. So we'll start at 25.5, then 26, then 26.5. So from there, if these loads are, looking promising, then maybe we'll continue to work on them. They might be like the 52s where it's like, I don't know. But I'll go ahead and show you guys what these look like. So they come in these nice little plastic containers. And they give you 2 little stickers. You can write cartridge, bullet, powder, charge weight, primer, overall length, and the date you loaded it. No, these are great. I have a couple of my boxes, the MTM ones that I use the MTM stickers in. Sierra, I know their bullets come with those little things too. Yeah, here's our bullet, just a small little 50 grain flat base hollow point bullet. But so these will be like loading 55 grain VMAXs, just no polymer tip, and 5 grains lighter. And so it's $17 for 100 of them. You can't go wrong with cheap bullets. I mean, there's guys out there that load the 55 grain full metal jackets, have absolute, excellent accuracy with them. And I mean, I think for 100 of those, they're like $12. So, I mean, you don't have to spend a lot of money to get good accuracy. So, like I said, we're going to start out. It'll be 25.5, 26, 26.5. Those will be our 3 charge weights for both powders. We'll see how they do. So we will start with the BLC2, like always. And using our RCVS funnel with the, see if I can find it here. Yeah, there we go. 17 caliber attachments. So we turn our scale on. Bring it over here. Now, I don't know if you guys noticed when I did the VMAX video. I actually didn't notice it till I started reloading the full metal jackets. But on my little cards here, that I had all my load information on. Let me try and find it here. I was doing half grain increments starting at 25. And I didn't notice this before. It went 25, 26.5. We just say 25 and 26. That's what everything's loaded to, is 25, 25.5, 26. But I made the mistake and put 26.5 on there, and like I said, I did not realize it until I tried doing that video last week and sitting there recording, and I'm like, how did I not notice this before? And even then, I didn't even notice it until I was editing the video. So, not like it would have been a big deal if they were loaded to 26.5, but alrighty. Let's see what we get. Yeah, it's pretty close. I think in the little load information, it's supposed to be right around this. Right around 25. For 2020 or 25.5, just like that. So another thing I wanted to bring up too, guys, is now that we're affiliated with CVLife, Scott did the scope review, and I had contacted them after Scott had did the review to see if they were willing to send us another scope to compare to the ones that Scott ordered, and to compare to some of the other budget-minded scopes both of us own. And they basically just said that at this time, you know, it's not a possible thing just because the channel's not quite big enough. But they had reached back out to us and asked if we would be willing to review one of their bipods. And Scott had emailed them back and said, you know, we'd love to, you know, give them all the information. So we're just waiting on that to come in. I will be doing the review on that. And as of recording this video too, guys, we're at 110 subscribers. So I'd just like to thank every last one of you that watches these videos and that has subscribed. You know, it means a lot to both Scott and I that you guys like these videos. You know, we decided just to do this because, you know, why not, you know, share our knowledge, give us something to do in our free time. And I mean, so far it's working out for us. So as a token of our appreciation for you guys, we plan, as of right now, are planning to do a subscriber giveaway when we hit 150. Now, I've been trying to think of what we would give away. Now, I was viewing it from a reloader standpoint, that, you know, give something away that a reloader would want. So I thought about, you know, whoever won, getting a hold of them and giving away something like, you know, little shell holder here. You know, just something simple like that. You know, I can go on a couple different websites, find multitudes of different calibers in them. You know, just something simple like that. Or, you know, possibly a, you know, little keychain or something. Or, you know, and then, you know, now with having a relationship with Lee, seeing if they'd be willing to give us a discount again, and maybe doing like a die set. But I think for our first giveaway, after kind of discussing things with my wife, you know, maybe doing a more of a targeted as a shooter giveaway. So after I do the bipod review video, I'm thinking of actually including that bipod as a giveaway item. I'll have to talk to Scott about it. I mean, I think it would be a a good idea. I only own one bipod. I know Scott's got several. I mean, it never hurts to have more than one bipod, especially if you're doing a lot of shooting. I got my little rest there for when I test my loads, but Scott, he prefers just using a bipod. Tried doing it, but I still move so much. I wanted to find something to take myself out of the equation to try and improve accuracy the best I could. But like I said, we want to find a way to give back to you guys for being so supportive. I like seeing your guys' comments on the videos. It lets me know that you guys are actually watching them and paying attention to them. You're not just watching the first, 2 minutes of the video and, oh, this is boring. When I see comments from later on from sections in the video, it's like, I know you guys are, watching most of the video. I'm sure there's some people out there that probably skip to whatever part they want to see, but so the first giveaway, like I said, we're going to do it at 150 subscribers, and then probably 300 after that at do the next 150, and then from there probably we'll do another one at 500 if we get that big. So you guys will have to let me know what would you like to see as a giveaway item. Something that either of us could go out and get, even if it's, say, someone out there wanted, we'll just say hypothetically, wanted these bullets, that and maybe a set of 223 dies. That's something we could easily do. Obviously I'm not going to say, we're going to give away a, Frankfurt Arsenal IntelliDropper, automatic, powder dispenser. No, I mean, we're not going to do something like that, guys. We're going to keep it small, keep it to something that, whether you're a reloader or just an avid shooter, something that you can use. So now we're on to the CFE. We're looking for 25.5. Yeah, hopefully soon we'll be able to fit another range day video in. Unfortunately, every time it seems like we're getting a decent amount of warm weather over a weekend, it tends to snow. It'll be 40 degrees one day, and then the next day it's 20 degrees and it's snowing outside. So for right now, we don't have any range videos planned. And when we do our next one, it'll probably be a mix of the 223 loads that we're working on. I got them 243 90 grain ELDX loads we can test, and then it'll probably be a little bit of a scope review. Finish the scope review too with Scott. That way we can actually tell you how we look at the range, how things seem at a distance. I mean, because you can look through a scope in your house and it'll look crystal clear. But until you throw environmentals in there, you know, all kinds of sunlight and, you know, let's say it's kind of like the first range video we have where it was kind of a snowy, rainy mix, and it was actually kind of hard to see through the scope. So yeah, until we get to the range, I mean, you can only take the review with a grain of salt. I mean, I haven't looked through them yet, but I trust Scott in saying that, you know, they're crystal clear and everything. I mean, I thought it was absolutely fantastic that CVLife was willing to work with us, especially being that when we contacted them, we were still only at like 84, I want to say, 84 subscribers. I mean, now, like I said, we're at 110 as of recording this video. And, you know, they were more than willing to be affiliated with us and give you guys a code for 10% off your order through them, which that code is, it's in all caps, TMR10. You can use that on their website for 10% off. So, whether you're looking for a scope, bipod, bore sight, red dot, spotting scope, you can go check out CVLife. I'll put a link in the description. Whether it's the affiliate link or just the link to their website. Because if you guys use just the affiliate link, all that does is just gives us 10% commission. And I mean, you could still use the coupon code, I think, but I don't know if it would give us like double the commission. You know, I think it just gives us one flat rate across the board. But it's nice having someone that was willing to work with such a small channel. You know, there was another company I had reached out to and just asked like what their requirements were to have a YouTube collaboration with them. And they had emailed me back and said that, you know, we had to have 10,000 subscribers before we would even be considered. That wasn't that's what it takes to actually be affiliated with it. That's just what it takes to be considered. But big shout out to CVLife for willing to work with us. And a big thanks to Lee for giving us a discount on some equipment to use toward the channel. Now, it did sound like, at least the way Scott made it sound, was that they are going to send us a catalog that has like modified part numbers in it, so that if you guys use those part numbers to buy something from them, it helps us out too. It gives us a small commission. I don't know what the percentage is, but you know, and you guys got to remember, you know, Scott and I are doing this out of our own pockets. So, you know, we work with what we can. So, you know, we might, as bad as it sounds, end up hitting a point where you guys might not see videos for a little bit, or you won't see the same type of videos. That's the thing, I'm kind of running out of things to reload. I mean, now that I got them 168 grade 308 bullets, excuse me, that gives us another video out of them. But alrighty, here's our here's our last charge. I would say, guys, this little dipper that comes with the die set is pretty accurate. Like I said, I think it said it was supposed to be throwing like 25.5 of CFE 223, and there's a couple times it was pretty close if you filled it all the way up to the top. So go ahead and get that out of our way. Alrighty, guys. So now we are done with that. Now, to the point of seating bullets. Now, I do want to give a quick shout out to the guy that commented on the last video about how I write on the side of them all the time of what my charge weights are, about using different colored Sharpies to like color the primers on them. Love that idea. Just every time I'm at Walmart, I forget to get different colored Sharpies. So hopefully this weekend I'll get around to doing it. And then one of my spare notebooks will keep a log in there of, that kind of stuff. So I will get you guys pointed at the press. I'll kind of go through the micrometer seating die a little bit, and how smooth it works, and just so I don't have to keep that big manual down. I did go ahead and write down the cartridge overall length of 2.235 for these bullets, so that's what we will be seating to. So I will go ahead and get you guys pointed at the press. Alrighty, guys, I got you zoomed in a little bit here just to show you this. So each these big lines you'll see is point whatever, so it's 400 thou, 300 thou. But what it tells you to do when you first set this up is to start at the 100 thou increment. So if you'll bring this down, and every full revolution is 50 thou on this little micrometer. So it looks like you're covering it up pretty good, but right there, that's at the 100 thou position. If you have one of these lines, still showing below this quite a bit, you're not quite at that mark. See, like if I back this up, like you might think, oh, right there. Here, actually, we'll just go full. Like there. Right there, you're actually above that 100 thou mark. So you gotta bring that down. In this case, it'll be one full rotation in there. So what you do is you do it like normal. You'll put your bullet in there, press it, and then you can come up here and adjust this. Now, like I said, when you start out in this position, I want to say yesterday when I messed with it, it came in at like 2.382. So then I knew I needed to go down, 130 thou. So 2 full revolutions, and then you line the center line up here with 30 thou. And that'll get you pretty close. Now, this one, unlike the Hornady one, does not click. But the rotation on this, super smooth. You just got to make sure that you're paying attention to these lines for your depth. Like I said, it won't click. So there's, like I said, every full revolution is 50 thou. So if you need to go, say, 5 thou, voila, 5 thou. You just want to make sure that these lines are legible. That's the big thing. I said it's not going to click, but as long as you're paying attention, you'll have no problem. So I'll zoom you guys back out here. Lower you down. Depress level. And we will get started. Like I said in the 55 grain VMAX video, make sure you have a pretty good chamfer on that inside if you are working with, see if I can get the focus here, a flat base bullet. They're rounded at the edges, but there's no boat tail for it to really sit in there. So this is my first time seeding one of these, so see how she feels. Yeah, see, set up at that 100 thou position like you're starting, just barely squeezed in there. So I'm going to go down 25 thou. And push it up. Still just barely pushing it there, guys. But in there just enough to where I can get a measurement. We're looking at 2.375. So, put that back in there. Grab my marker here. I don't feel like doing the mental math. 2.375. We're looking for 2.235. So we need to go down another 140 thou. So I will do. So come back around to 25. So that's 100, or that's 50. That should be 100. And I'll do is I'll run it up, bring it back down. Now I should need to only go about 40 thou. Yeah, 39 thou. What I need to go. That's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. We'll go 30 thou. Turn it up. And check. So we're at 2.244. I need to be at 2.35. So we'll go about 8 thou. I don't always like to do the full, like the full 10. I'll just keep it backed off a little bit. You're at 2.2365. So I will give it that extra thou. Well, I moved about half a thou. And there we go, guys. We're within 5/10 of a thou. That's not going to hurt anything. So, now that I got the die set where I needed, now it's as simple as put the next one in, grab the next bullet, and run her up in there. Then I will always measure the next couple that come off, just to double check, make sure they're right where they need to be. Everything's looking good. So I will go ahead and finish seating the rest of these bullets, and I will point you guys at the bench and we'll do our outro and I'll let you guys know what we got coming up next. Alright, so there we go, guys. There is all 18 of our 50 grain Speer TnT varmint bullets. So, like I said, the latest we've tried up until now is 52. And those were the Hornady match bullets, so I'm intrigued to see how these perform. Because even right on the side of the package, it says bench rest accuracy, explosive terminal, performance, minimal wind drift. So, you know, let's see how these work out. And you know, guys, if there's any other bullets you want to see us try, and I will just stay with, on my end, with these two powders, because until I get more Varget, I'm really not going to work with it, you know, as far as load development for the 223. These two powders have been working exponentially, so we'll just keep using these. So now that means we have these 50 grain Speers, as well as our 55 grain VMAXs and 55 grain full metal jackets. I haven't got around to loading the soft points yet. Those will be on my to-do list, but like I said, I loaded the FMJs in the last video. Like I said, I spent probably an hour and a half, almost 2 hours recording, about the same amount of time editing, and had something go wrong, lost all the footage. So that's why there was no loading video last week. So I do apologize. You know, I record on Sundays and try and get them posted Monday. I'm recording this one on a Saturday, so that hopefully if I have any issues, you know, I have time to re-record. But like I said, I'll be interested to see how these do. And so I'll be interested too in the future, try and do a comparison between the two primers. You know, considering these are more like a Magnum primer and these are just your standard primer. You know, if they will give better accuracy or just, you know, more consistent, you know, ignition. But I think for the next video, guys, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to try these. Like I said, these are the 168 grain Match Kings from Sierra for the 308. I've been wanting to try these ones for a while. Like I said, they're not exactly the cheapest bullet. That's kind of why I've been putting them off. But when I do this video, we're going to have a little fun with it. I'm actually going to do like a die comparison in the process. You know, I use RCBS dies, and Scott had borrowed me a set of his dies, which are the Lee really good buy, or really great buy rather, dies. So I just want to kind of compare, like, after you resize, like body dimensions kind of thing. You know, kind of how does the neck measure? You know, is one going to have a little bit more neck tension than the other? You know, just kind of play around with them a little bit. But these will be in our next video, and for that, probably be using CFE BLC2 as well as Varget. Like I said, Varget's been my go-to powder for my 308. But be on the lookout for next week's video. Start working up a load with these. And I know I've said it before, you're going to hear me sound like a broken record. You know, I've been having all kinds of scope issues with my 308. Scott gave me the loophole that he had on his 308 because he had put, you know, that CVLife on. And, you know, this is what I had on it before. This is just a Vortex, you know, copperhead 4 to 12 by 44. I had the scope on my 270. Had absolutely no issues. Put it on my 308. I've had nothing but issues with it. I did notice when I put the loophole down, though, that the front base, now it has the Weaver style bases on it. At the front base, one of the screws was loose. So I retorqued it. Hopefully that fixed my problem. We'll find out. But I think I'm going to call her quits there, guys. Like I said, we have plenty of 223 loaded up. I have to get the soft points loaded up yet. Like I said, I'll do that on my free time. Next video will be a 308 video. So we'll go through all of that. I also do still have some 165 interlocks for my 308. So maybe we'll include those in a video. I already worked up a load for them. But maybe I'll use them as a like a beginner's guide to reloading 308 kind of thing. And then I have some 110 VMAXs for the 308. So I'll have to see out of all the powders I have, which ones will work. I know Varget won't, but the Ramshot Exterminator I have will. I don't know about these two. But I'm going to sign off there, guys. Like I said, if you want to see any particular bullet, you know, please leave a comment. Email us. I'll include the email in the description below. Give us ideas that you guys would like to see as a giveaway item. You know, like I said, I can do load blocks like this. You know, I'll have to talk to Scott, see what he thinks about, you know, after the bipod review, maybe using the bipod as a giveaway item, or maybe he wants to keep that for the channel. I don't know. You know, it's both of us working on this, so need both of our opinions. But for now, this has been Walker with the Midwestern Reloaders, and I hope to see you guys on the flip side.